And we are back for episode number 50 of Stream of Thought. Big 50. I can't believe we've been doing this for this long.
50 episodes in less than 6 months.
And we start off by talking about the thing that everyone's been talking about.
The historic upset in Alabama.
A Democrat elected for the first time in 25 years.
I don't even want to know what would have happened had Roy Moore won.
Dude.
It would have been a disaster.
I mean...
There would have been a lot of mean tweets out there.
And then we transition into... What did we transition
Fantasy
into?
football.
Oh, yeah, that's
The
right.
season is coming near an
endless.
end. For many people, it's playoffs week.
There's a bit of a heated conversation we have about whether or not fantasy football is just too much for our American culture right now. Discrepancies?
between our thought towards that.
Not great. But
then we wrap things up by finding the common denominator amongst the two of us, which is bad drivers, people that are just completely unaware.
Whether you're walking, whether you're using a bicycle, or whether you're driving, it's all about understanding the flow.
Just know where you're going. Just drive like you have a destination in mind, and just have intention, and just don't be an idiot. So with that being said, episode number 50, Stream of Thought. We hope you enjoy. So, to start things off for episode number 50, we need to go back and fix a fuck up that we made in episode 49. We had mentioned the chocolate shop is, what was it, all chocolate, all things chocolate?
We thought it was all things chocolate.
Which sounds like a really wonderful and magical place.
It really does.
But it's actually called All Chocolate Kitchen.
Yes.
So if you want to Google that, All Chocolate Kitchen.
In Geneva.
So we just had to get that out of the way so we don't look like as much of a bunch of idiots getting things wrong.
But yeah, assholes.
Yeah, assholes. Yeah, that's what we are. But yeah, we're kicking off number 50 right now.
Dude, this is so crazy. And can I say by opening that this is just a great day for America.
Oh, it's a total great day. Why don't you tell us why?
Oh, well, I think that it should be self-evident. We were talking a little bit on the ride over, but Doug Jones, man, a Democrat beating a pedophile in Alabama, a Republican pedophile in Alabama, is probably one of the greatest things that I've ever witnessed in the political scene in these past 2 decades.
I did not think it was going to happen.
No, not in a million years.
I did not think it was going to happen.
Never did I think that Alabama was going to ever elect a Democrat. Not in a million years.
Do you think that... How many votes do you think swung towards him as a result of the whole... issue with Moore?
Enough to get Doug Jones elected.
Right?
Man, dude. Like, and here's the crazy part, too, is that for the past, feels like 3 weeks now, there's just been this nonstop conversation, especially, like, Sunday morning talk shows tend to be representative of what the political discourse has been condensed into one day, or, like, 1 hour. And everyone has been wondering why it is conservative Christian evangelicals have been supporting a person who's been credibly accused of pursuing underage girls when he was in his mid-30s. And the defense of him has just been so bewildering that I think it even impacted Alabama. Like, they saw that, and you have to think that they were looking at that and saying, there's no way we can let this be our reputation. That we are okay with a incredibly charged pedophile becoming our senator because we think Democrats are Satan incarnate, like just by the D after their name. It doesn't matter who they are. So the fact that this guy, and the guy who they elected, Doug Jones, he prosecuted the KKK. He was this huge law enforcement official.
Did not know that.
Super reputable person. One of these people who has been a public servant his entire life, trying to do justice, trying to do right, trying to like be the embodiment of the American dream. I think his dad was a steel worker or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he ended up growing up, getting into law enforcement, and his big claim to fame was prosecuting the Birmingham church bombing that the KKK ended up causing. And that was something that I think brought out, dude, like the black vote that ended up coming out for Doug Jones. Mm-hmm. I did not think that especially after Hillary Clinton, and you saw the minority vote just low, very low, much lower than was expected. Here, it was at Barack Obama levels. Turned out to vote for Doug Jones, which is crazy as a white white man running for office, the fact that so many African Americans would come out and vote for him is, I think, a testament to just how animated I think our culture is right now. There is just so much anger boiling at our political situation. It's crazy, and you're shaking your head right now. But I know
wow.
I know
I'm
you're
just like, wow.
I know you're feeling it too, man. Like it's nuts. It's nuts.
I
what's
was
going on.
watching a video. I think it was yesterday before the results came in, and I can't remember who it was in particular, but somebody was saying how, and I can't remember what state, but somebody was saying how this guy, not this guy is Doug Jones, but some person cannot be an elected official because they're Muslim, and when you are elected, you have to swear on the Holy Bible, and if you're Muslim, then you don't use the Bible, therefore you cannot be elected.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
And Jake Tapper's response is, "That's not the law. You don't know that's the law." And he just responded by going, well, Donald Trump swore on the Bible. It's like, yeah, because that was his choice.
Yeah.
And then he ended the interview there. But yeah, I mean, you saw all of these supporters coming out, and yeah, very traditional conservative Republican Southerner for the 1970s. Like if they were living in the 1970s, they'd be fine. Like they'd be golden. That was the cultural attitude. But now it's like, wait, women matter. These were people who Roy Moore himself said that you should repeal every amendment after the 10th, which includes the women's right to vote, the abolition of slavery, the granting of voting rights to African Americans and minorities. Like he thought that the country would operate so much easier if we repealed all the amendments after the 10th. And that was like one of his last statements before the election was held. And that was just another representation of, man, like, are we so divided that we can't even agree that this is an absurd choice to be a representative to, of America to the world? Like, so I was so happy. I was shocked. I saw it live. I got back home at around like 9:30 or whatever. They hadn't called the election. Within the next 15 minutes, they called it. I saw it live, and the Doug Jones support. Oh man, everyone was so many tears, so much joy.
Why is this? Don't all the elections take place in November? Like across, it's not just the presidency.
This was a special election because Jeff Sessions, who was our Attorney General, used to hold the seat. He was Luther Strange was appointed by the Republican governor of Alabama to serve as a fill-in until a special election could be called.
Okay.
Roy Moore won the primary for the Republicans, and so it was Doug Jones versus Roy Moore to fill the seat that Jeff Sessions left when Donald Trump appointed him Attorney General.
Okay.
Very complicated. Very complicated. But yeah, long story short, yes, elections are normally held in November, but when you have appointments or people leaving office, then you'll have special elections that end up filling it in. So that's why everyone talks about it, because it's the only race that's happening.
Yeah, okay.
Like, that's why it's such a big deal.
I thought it was really odd. It's December.
Yeah, if this was November of next year, there would be thousands of other elections happening, and I don't think
probably wouldn't receive as much media.
No, and as a result, I don't think that Doug Jones would have won. And when he's up again in 2020, because Jeff Sessions' term was already 2 years into his term, and Senate terms are 6 years. So as a result, Doug Jones gets the remaining 4 years, but then he has to run for re-election again.
Got it.
So
understood.
He has a limited time, and there's no way he's winning re-election. This is like
no,
absolutely
not.
This is a blip on the radar.
Blip on the radar.
Because Roy Moore was such a horrible human being, and Doug Jones was such an awesome person. Everything fit into place that he was able to pull off the impossible. But it's not going to happen again. Like, you can't throw two Hail Marys and expect a touchdown.
You can't throw two Hail Marys and expect a touchdown. Speaking of football, Carson Wentz is out, and I'm really happy I held on to.
There have been some vicious injuries happening to players these past couple of weeks.
I also made it to my semifinal.
Congratulations.
So,
my brother has been bragging that he's top of his league, so he's very proud of that accomplishment.
He could fall at any moment. I was in first place for like 4 straight. I was in ranked 1 and 2 for like half the season, and then all of a sudden I dipped down to like 3 after like 2 straight losses.
Brooks, when I was in Minnesota, I was hanging out with Brooks, and he was doing fantasy, and he's like, I'm in last place. I have like 40 points, and all the noon and 3 o'clock games had been played, so it was only the 7 o'clock and Monday Night Football games. By Monday night, he had gotten 80 points from his like couple of from the 3 games that were played.
Yeah.
He just had really spectacular games. Like I won somehow.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy the momentum swings that you have in
Yeah,
fantasy.
it was an upset last week.
It was an upset
for me, so it was good. I got that win, but I'm gonna be playing Amanda again for the semifinal.
I'm gonna vent a little bit about fantasy, just in the sense that it forces you to watch games that you would in no other reality have any interest in watching.
I'm going to
the
interject
results
real
of.
quick.
Please do.
I actually
Defend
do
your
not
points.
watch NFL very often.
You don't
as a
actually watch.
result
Oh,
of
you don't watch the
playing
games.
fantasy football. No, I will watch. This
Really?
is what I'll do. If I have an important game, I'll watch no more than the second half, and even then, I get bored after about 5 minutes. I cannot watch sports on TV.
Wow.
I find it extremely boring.
Oh my
Any
goodness.
sport to watch on TV by myself.
Yeah, by
But
yourself,
I'm with
yeah.
friends, and if I'm drinking or doing other stuff, I can do that.
Yeah.
But even
Okay.
then,
All right.
even then, a few times I've watched some games, and it's later at night, and there's like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, which equates to like 20 minutes.
Oh my
you know
God,
what I'm saying?
so many
And I'm
commercials.
just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna check this. I don't care enough to keep up to date moment to moment. So I either win or I don't. I'll find out tomorrow morning, and I'll just turn off the TV.
You're one of the rare people then who don't watch the games, because like I said, when I was in Minnesota, that's all they were doing was watching games so they could see the fans and like flipping back and forth to see how their players were doing in the game. And I mean, they're not super obsessed with fantasy sports, but still it feels super important to sort of everyone during this time of year during the football season, especially during playoffs when it gets super intense and people are like, make sure my lineup's good.
I got my lineup set.
What other lineup? You know, what are my opponent's lineups?
Mm-hmm.
What gotta double check, make sure that I got the right matchups, make sure
Yeah.
everything's lined up perfectly, do the best that I can, and then Sunday comes around and you're constantly checking your phone, seeing the scores like, oh, got another 15 points. Oh, nice turnover. Oh, all right.
I
Cool.
forgot that there was the trade deadline, so I was gonna try and like get some good players from
the trade
from
deadline.
people that aren't even in the playoffs anymore. But I couldn't do that. But it's all right because I picked up a couple people that were free agents, and I feel pretty good about this week.
The passion and the absurdity of the concept of fantasy sports
it's
is
awesome.
Just, no, it's not.
It's so great.
It's not.
Why?
You're
I'm in complete control. It doesn't run my life. Why do you think it's so dumb?
You
were in fantasy. We
concept-
were in the same league a few years ago.
Yeah, and I don't do that anymore. Like just the idea of trying to control or not control, but to be reliant on random people's athletic performances on a particular day and all the other just random factors that go into it seem very counterintuitive, and it makes me feel kind of helpless about the whole situation because, you know, in the same thing when I was a compulsive gambler, like I wasn't in control of the situation. I'd like to think that I knew the psychology of everything, of all the players and their injuries and all the situations that go into that. And there are some people in fantasy who do that. I'm not saying you're one of them, but I'm saying that it is one of those things that just when you're confronted with that situation, it's like, how much time and energy are you going to spend on someone else's performance?
Dude, it's just fantasy football.
I know. And you take a purport, like, you haven't really talked about it too much around me. I mean, you mention it probably once a week.
I think you are hating on it because you have been exposed to people who let it run their life for the season.
Correct.
That is not what happens.
I think that you, being a relatively stable individual who doesn't have any potential, I don't know. I feel like you handle it better than most people, and so you undervalue the potential harm that comes from the obsession that is fantasy football.
Well, everybody has choices, and sometimes people's choices get a little out of control, and fantasy football is not one of them for me.
That's a great rebuttal, man. That's super
super
specific.
So pretty much what you're saying is that fantasy football is at fault for people making the choice to allow something to run their life in a negative way.
In the same way that people have phone addictions and can't set down their phone and constantly have to be like scrolling through and stuff like that, I feel like fantasy football has a equal weight to the distraction that's caused in people's lives and the disruption.
So then that's like
I'm not saying that's you.
That's
I'm
like
not saying that's
fantasy
you.
football is this evil, and then you're like saying, well, that's similar to phone addictions, but phones aren't evil. So what you're saying is, okay, let me backtrack. So what you're saying is this. You're saying that you're pretty much saying fantasy football is like evil because of it gets people addicted to this game that really is of no importance.
That's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying then?
I'm saying that people's natural propensity is one of addiction. And so people look to something to give them fulfillment in life, and as a result, like a lot of these artificial things that take up their time and energy make them feel like they're doing something productive, but do nothing more than excite those adrenal glands that say, this is fun. Like, I'm spending so much time and energy without actually thinking about, well, what am I getting from knowing what Carson Wentz stats were prior to his injury? and like, once he's injured, well, what good does that, that knowledge about how well he's been performing do me anymore?
Well, I can tell you exactly what that means. It means that he's probably not going to be a top pick for next season because he's going to be out. He's going to be out for 9.
Exactly.
He's going to be out for 9 to 12 months.
It's cyclical because
he's going to be out for 9 to 12 months. So I'm not going to pick him next season.
Exactly. There you go. So, but you internalize that knowledge and you store it when other pieces of knowledge could be so much more productive to store. Like, it's just natural for us to take that information and then try and utilize that. We know it's a long-term game. For somebody like you, it's not just about this year. It's about winning next year and the year after that.
I don't think about that.
I know you don't think about that, but for example, you're not going to pick Carson Wentz because that's logged into your internal memory of, oh, this dude was injured. Like,
I'll most likely not pick Carson Wentz.
There you go. And for me, when you said Carson Wentz, I'm like, who the fuck is Carson Wentz?
I'm still going to pick
I don't know who Carson Wentz is.
OBJ, though. Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh,
still going to pick him.
I have to say, I don't think he's hit his prime yet. I think he's got a couple of years left to show that I like Odell Beckham. Yeah. His catches, man. His one-handed catches and stuff like that. He's a superhero.
So pretty much again
going
back to what you're saying
we diverged.
With the phone, you were saying how it equates it's similar to phone addiction. The other week we said yes, it's a double-edged sword, yes, but at the same time it is this phenomenal tool. What I'm saying is, so you're saying that you're not recognizing the other side. You're pretty much saying like fantasy football is really shitty.
Tell me the other side then.
The other side is it's just a fucking game. It's just something that people do, right?
Yeah.
That like I enjoy it because it's this common denominator that I share with 9 other people for a certain time span of these people who I know really, really well, and it's something that we can talk about. It's no different than binge watching a TV series and having a conversation on the episodes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's no different than actually being in a room following a sports team with your neighbors or family, and like it's something that you're into and that you like and that you're passionate about for a certain period of time, and that's it. And then it's over, and then you go back to your life, and then there's like next season. Yeah. So it's not like this thing that I think you have a very biased opinion towards it.
You make some very valid points, and I would counter by saying, okay, so where do you draw the line with like personal responsibility versus the addictive potential for stuff that individuals can consume? So take, for example, you engage in fantasy football or binge watching TV on a responsible level. You are a responsible human being, relatively speaking. And most people I have found in one form or another, whether it's binge watching TV or obsessing about fantasy sports, tend to be unaware of just how much time and energy they have invested into their particular fruitless endeavor, like an endeavor that brings nothing except for the thrill of a reward or stuff like that.
But you can't say it's this fruitless endeavor if it's something that people choose to enjoy. Like people like it. Yeah. So how is somebody who doesn't participate in it have the right to say this is a fruitless endeavor?
Tell me the fruit of the endeavor. Like what reward do you get from placing third in your fantasy league?
damn, better luck next year. Like, it's not just the end result, it's the process. But my argument is you from the outside looking in, that someone who doesn't participate in this and already has this certain opinion are saying you guys shouldn't, pretty much saying like you guys shouldn't be doing this because there is no reward.
That's not what I'm saying.
Then what are you saying?
I'm saying that there needs to be a proportionality to the amount of time and energy we devote to these extracurriculars, right?
So working out can be a fruitless endeavor?
No, it's not.
Yes, anything can be a fruitless endeavor if someone doesn't find value in it. But other people find value in different things.
Yeah, but there are tangible benefits as to like working out. As a result, you get stronger, faster, live longer, live a healthier life, are able to be more productive. Like there are tangible benefits you can see. Whereas I feel like a lot of times, yeah, you know what? The community and camaraderie that you can get from playing fantasy sports, cool. But is there an alternative that perhaps can allow that better? Maybe. I don't know. But I feel like people would use the camaraderie and friendship and just having a fun time competing with other people as an excuse to overindulge in saying, well, like, this is super important to me because of the friendships that I developed. That's not your driving motivator. Your driving motivator is to win the fucking tournament. Like, that is the drive that I think is the corrupting force in fantasy football, is this desire to win, to be the best, to prove to other people that you have, like, inside knowledge or special insight into the game of football that others don't. Dude, we glorify. There was a whole show that was dedicated to glorifying fantasy sports and being the victor of your fantasy football league.
Oh, that's right.
The league, right?
I was thinking of something else. There's a
show about it. I think
league. That show hasn't been on the air for like several years, but yeah, that show was about fantasy football.
Yeah. So I mean, but again, it goes back to the glorification of the empty victory. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I come from. Now, honestly, if I had the chance to participate in a fantasy football league in the future, I wouldn't say no. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't do it for money or anything like that. But if there's a casual, friendly league that just wants to do something like that, I'm not saying that I would be opposed to doing that. It's just keeping in mind, that potential for overindulgence, if that makes sense. It's nothing against your passion for the game or your excitement that you get from like winning. I mean, that's great. I think that's awesome. Like, don't think that I'm knocking that at all.
It sounds like you're knocking everybody that participates in fantasy football.
I am absolutely not trying to do that at all. I'm just saying that there needs to be self-awareness in this process. And honestly, with people who actually care about football, you don't care about football. You don't even watch the fucking games. Most people do care about football and actually watch the games. There needs to be an awareness to that, like, male testosterone-fueled drive of, well, why am I watching this game? Because I want to see the player that I have on my roster do well so that I can win and ultimately be the victor and conquer everyone.
I mean, it takes a lot of strategy if you know what you're doing.
And it's fun. Yeah, it's a game, right? It's like a long-term Monopoly game,
who do you
right?
trade? Who are you dropping?
Yeah.
Who are you going to bench? Who are you not going to bench? And dude, I
love strategy.
Like
I
4
love
games
that
in a
concept.
row.
Yeah.
I just went with intuition. I was like, I think this is what's going to happen. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And like, sure enough, I start winning. This is the first year that I pay more attention to the updates and the stats, and I'll move things around and I'll play a certain way. You have an
insight.
So now I kind of have a feeling for how this works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's fun, right? It's good to know that you have something that other people don't. You have a certain knowledge that other people don't, and it allows you the opportunity to have that slight advantage, which pays off, as you said.
Yeah, except when, like, last minute your tight end is out and you don't have a tight end.
Yeah.
But you
Carson Wentz gets killed.
Dude, so my tight end for Philadelphia, I can't remember his first name, Ertz, he was out one game. I played that week, I think, without a tight end. I think I won that game. And then he was out again this week, and I didn't know he was out again, and I still won. I was like, oh, fuck, yes. That was a close one.
Dude, yeah. And that is fun. Like, there is something about winning by the wire, or winning by the skin of your teeth, or a miracle like comeback. And that's why I watch college football sometimes, is that I love the idea that someone could come from 5 touchdowns down in the fourth quarter to win the game. Like, that's absurd. It doesn't make any rational sense. But the fact that it could happen, and that both sides equally want to win, and yet this ends up being the result of like an upset, that's a cool concept.
What do you think of board games?
What do you mean? What do I think about board games?
Like playing board games with people.
They don't allow you that portability that stuff like fantasy or mobile games do.
Yeah, but it's the same concept. It involves strategy. You're with people. You have a drive to win.
Listen, man, I'm jazzing to play some Monopoly. Pull out the cribbage board, dude.
But I have played games where like
fix.
insane things happen in a board game, and it fires off the same.
I don't think so.
What are you talking
I
about?
don't think so.
What are you talking about?
No one is like, we need to play a board game right now because, well, I think
Coming from someone who does not play board games.
I play board games all the time. I played cribbage while I was up in Minnesota. Yeah.
I'm still listening.
I'm saying board, and the other thing about board games too is that there's no monetary prize involved. At least the board games that I play don't involve, like, let's all throw down $20 and whoever wins the board game gets all the money.
But forget the monetary prize. You still want to win.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that if there was no monetary value, then you would see the true passion of the people who actually cared about fantasy football. Like, if you didn't have your $20 entry fee or whatever, would you still have the same sort of interest?
Yeah, because I sometimes forget that there's a $20 entry fee.
And that's
because I pay that $20 knowing that $20, I accept that will be gone. It's not like I'm on the edge waiting to get money back.
You are the exception to the rule. Most people who throw in $20 for a fantasy league are thinking about the pot of winning the pot. Like, that is their like ultimate goal, to win the league and win the $200 or whatever, you know? And if you eliminate the money, then you get to see the people like you are going to be all over the place, because if there's no money involved, there's no incentive to there's no ulterior motive to play fantasy football other than like just wanting to win or like wanting to compete. But then you add the money factor, and that's when it becomes messy. And that's where I think the difference between board games and fantasy football lie, is that little entry fee thing. You don't have that with board games. You have that with fantasy. Pretty much every single fantasy league has a $20 entry fee. That's why I wasn't invited this year. Like, people knew I couldn't pay to enter, and so I wasn't invited. I mean, it is inherently assumed that a fantasy league is going to involve a buy-in, and that's where the difference lies.
I don't think we did a buy-in a few years ago, did we?
No,
I don't think so.
No, we didn't. It was the bachelor party disaster of a fantasy league.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, there was no. Granted, I was going through my own stuff, so like, that's not a good representation. But there was no money. But look what happened. It fell apart.
Yeah.
Right.
I can only commit to one league each year. We asked one of our friends to join before
it's
it
a
started,
lot of time and
he's
energy.
like, dude, I can't. I'm in 5 leagues. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Half of what my brother talks about at home when I'm around is fantasy football. Like, he loves talking about fantasy football. That's like where most of his extra energy is gone, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think that's a pretty accurate representation.
I'm loyal to the CFL, the Cox Fantasy League. John Cox.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's the one that started it up. And Amanda, his wife, is like, I don't want to join. No. She doesn't sound like that, but that's my impersonation of every woman ever. She's like, I don't.
That is delightful.
She's like, no, I don't want to join you because we needed a 10th player. She's like, no, I don't want to join. This is dumb. I never win. Like, no one ever wins. What are you talking about? She's in first place right now.
That is normally the case.
And I'm playing her for the semifinal.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not playing her. I'm playing Witter. I played her last week and I won.
And I think that is
playing
the
Witter.
beautiful irony of most fantasy leagues that I hear is that, especially towards the end of the season, the people who care the least.
Her and her husband are going up against each other, so she's still in the semifinal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How does? Yeah. Okay. We're not gonna deviate that far, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm cool with playing a fantasy league for free. I'm just not into the whole putting money in. I would do that. I would do it if people wanted, like, had that same passion that you did to actually just enjoy the win without the reward.
I don't
the carrot and the stick.
I don't gamble very much, but I like throwing money in on things and seeing what happens.
Yeah, there you go.
Because there is that
Proportional,
rush. There is that. What's
rush.
gonna happen?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? No. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I don't do
Yeah.
it like all the time. I
Yeah.
can't remember the last time I gambled outside of fantasy.
Most
recently.
compulsive gamblers say that.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I like playing cards though. I want to. Yeah. I kind of want to. Yeah. All right. I kind of want to play some poker or something now. But the thing is, too, when I do that, it's not like these exuberant amounts of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I ever play, I don't think I've ever played cards and bought more than like $20 worth of chips. That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time it's like $5 or $10 because it's not really about the money. It's just about getting out. But
Exactly.
If money, especially with poker, if there's no money, then the kind of purpose of playing is defeated and people don't play the same unless money's on the line.
I remember back when we were in high school, we played poker at Cooper's house. We went to a couple of tournaments and stuff like that. And it was never, for me, it was that there was never that addictive factor in the playing of like throwing down $20 and saying, okay, like I'm basically going to lose this. Look at all the other people around here. My odds of actually winning something are just not worth even considering. So, okay, $20, whatever. Like, but it's for the experience. I've never done anything like this before, or it's fun hanging out with friends. You know, there's a reason beyond the money, and it adds to that sort of competitive factor in the moment. And I think that was fun, but it did not equate to that same sort of like addictive rush.
I remember we were playing at Cooper's house one time, and like I think it was like Andy Van Dyne was playing with us, and like he threw in $20, lost, threw in another $20, lost, threw in another $20. I was like, dude, we're in fucking high school. Where do you have just $60 to just drop on cards? I have like $10.
That's the
thing,
man.
But he was throwing in and lost, and then after throwing in $60, he like came back and I think he broke even. I was like, fuck.
Dude,
Kudos, dude.
That's a compulsive gambler right there. Like,
give me a break.
Dude,
One time.
Oh, so he never gambled outside of that.
I don't know, but you can't
there
say.
you go.
But listen,
There are
stop.
character patterns.
No, stop. Listen.
You're gonna tell me about compulsive gambling.
No, listen.
Okay,
listen.
enlighten me.
So what you're saying is that if somebody does something like that where they're spending money on something and it's an isolated incident or it's done a handful of times but doesn't become a habit, then they're a gambler. If it doesn't become a habit. You just said gambler.
I'm saying there are certain defining character patterns for compulsive gamblers, and one of those is if there is an opportunity for rebuy-ins, that compulsive gamblers cannot stop themselves from buying in until they either run out of money or are able to leave the game even, or the game ends. It's normally the game ends or they run out of money. It's normally not they choose to leave when they break even. I'm guessing he broke even and the game ended.
I don't recall. I just remember he put in at a total of $60.
I'm just saying,
and
like,
he either broke even or came up.
I hear these stories freaking every single week, and it's the same thing over and over again, and you begin to identify certain behavioral patterns that really do represent problems that can be identified at an early age. Like I said, I was telling you in the car, high schoolers, something like 40% of high schoolers are addicted to something revolving around their mobile devices, for those that have smartphones. So, yeah, even at that age, for people who are, and you asked the question, who has $60 to $80 to just throw around on a poker game? It doesn't matter.
I didn't, for sure, in high school.
He probably didn't either. but the desperation says you'll find, you said he left and came back afterwards, right?
What?
You said this guy ended up leaving and coming back? Or
No, he was there the whole time. It's
Okay,
not like
so
he
just
left
yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
get more money.
Oh,
No,
okay,
he was
yeah.
there the whole time.
But it's one of those things where it's like you don't have the money, you're gambling. So you need to, like, you'll have extra money, but it's money you can't lose. And you think to yourself, well, I lost this. Okay, well, I'll just take a 20 out of here and we'll make it up. We'll be good.
Yeah.
And then you lose that 20 and you're like, okay, another 20. I'll double up, triple up, and we'll be good. You lose that and you're like, oh, shit. All right. Now I got to start thinking, like, how I'm going to work this. I only have another $20 in my pocket.
There's
what am I
an
gonna do?
episode of Wonder Years where Kevin is, like, playing poker with, like, the band somewhere, like these older guys, like 40s and 50s, and I think he bets his car and
Yes.
and like loses his car.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what happens in the rest of the episode, but I remember when he loses the car, he had this look on his face like, shit, I actually didn't think that was going to happen, or like, oh, fuck, I made a huge mistake.
Oh, the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
It's a horrifying experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that for sure he was, but I'm saying that's a good character pattern indicator of people who, it's like, when they lose, they can't accept that they lost.
Yeah.
And so they have to continue to try and make up for that.
Yeah,
and
I
get
got
back
you.
to even.
I
And,
got you.
It's like with compulsive gamblers too. The story that you hear over and over again is every compulsive gambler has had that experience of getting back to even and being like, I'm good now. Now I'm gonna get a little extra on top, and then it just goes back downhill from there. It's that cycle of never having enough kind of thing. But that's neither here nor there.
Interesting. Man, that sucks.
Wait, we were talking about fantasy, right? Yeah, that's right. Wow, that was quite a deviation. It's cool though. So I had another thing that I wanted to get off my chest.
Okay.
And this is maybe
Is this still
I feel
about
like you
gambling, or is
no,
this
this is
something new? All right,
totally
changing gears.
90.
Okay.
Taking a 90.
Okay.
And I was biking. Gosh, I can't remember when.
You were biking to the courthouse?
No,
You
I was
were-
going over to Ray's house to film. I can't remember what day it was, but heading over to his house, and it's like a 5-mile bike ride.
Okay.
And I'm, it's the burbs, right? Sidewalks, stuff like that, crossing roads.
Yeah.
The thing that I just cannot stand about certain drivers is those that have indecision when it comes to flow of traffic.
Dude, I fucking hate that shit.
And I was thinking to myself, and I actually was reflecting on this because I was thinking to myself, when is the last time that I had an instance where I've had an indecisive driver at an intersection where I'm trying to like get through and like cross through? And I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm just imagining the fact that there are these drivers who will stop in between, as they're, so you have the intersection across right here, right? And so I'm heading this direction on the sidewalk. You can't really see this.
Are you parallel with the driver? Or are you perpendicular?
So there's cars going I'm parallel to cars going
straight.
say north.
Okay.
North south. And when you come to the intersection, sometimes cars will turn like that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, when you turn left, when is the last time that a driver paused, uncertain, as I'm going parallel to them and we're heading down on sort of equal speeds? I slow down to allow them the space so that I don't encroach upon their space, slow down enough to allow them the left turn without worrying. So when they get to the intersection, I am not to the street yet. I haven't crossed the sidewalk onto the street. I slow down enough so that they are in the middle of the intersection. There's no other traffic coming the opposite direction. They're able to turn left if they want. And this was one of those instances where I'm heading up to the intersection parallel with a car. I see that they're going to turn left at it's Western and Geneva right from my house. And I slow down, allow them the space. They're in the middle of the intersection. They see me at the sidewalk crosswalk, heading onto the street, and I'm going at a very freaking slow pace. And they slow down to the point where they're almost to the sidewalk as I'm heading into the street, and then they don't know what to do. Should they hit the brake so that I can get in front of their car and go on there, or should they speed up? They don't know. And so
they're turning
just,
left into you?
they're turning, so we're both going parallel north.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to turn west.
Right.
On take a left west, and they stop like right in the middle of the sidewalk gap where you can go around in the right-hand lane. You're supposed to turn into the left-hand lane and keep going, right? I think, right? Is that what you're supposed to do? Anyway. And then they're stopped there, and it's like they expect me to then change my trajectory, which was originally just to keep gliding at maybe 10 miles an hour, right, as they continue turning. Now they've stopped, so I have to decide, am I going to try and sneak around them? There's no way I can go behind them, otherwise I'm going into the oncoming side of traffic, and it's green light, so I don't know what's coming in the opposite direction. So I have to go in front, but here it's that sort of like jerky motion of the car trying to move forward, not sure if they're going. And then, as I'm crossing in front of them, they have the gall to honk at me after their indecision, and I lost it, and I may have given them
the finger.
Not the finger. I had gloves on, so it was like I was showing them my hand.
Yeah.
But one of those things where, I mean, learn how to effing drive. I understand defensive drivers, but understand the flow of traffic. Understand that, especially if you have something where you have a bike that's riding parallel to you and they're slowing down and going at a pace that will allow you to, at your 15 miles an hour or whatever, go smoothly through the intersection. Do not hit your brakes and stop in the middle of where the sidewalk connects. Because it makes it impossible for the bike rider to determine whether they should go in front of you or behind you, because you don't know what you're doing, and so they can't know what to do as a result. And it's just one of those things where, like, I was reflecting back on it, and I've almost gotten hit maybe 3 or 4 times because of drivers who just effing can't make up their mind. Just go. Just
hate
go.
That,
if you go, I'm fine.
Yes.
If you're an aggressive driver or a regular, normal driver and just go, I am fine. But when you have that indecision of like, well, I just want to be safe, so I'm going to stop and then expect them to stop so I can go, that's not how it works.
My mindset is just always like
not.
drive like you have a destination in mind. Like, don't just be fucking driving around like you don't know what you're doing.
Be aware of your environment. Be aware of your environment.
Shit.
Like, know the flow
That's
of
why
traffic.
I got pissed when that car pulled out of the UFC parking lot that we were in.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, this motherfucker better not have pulled into the far lane, make me slow down when the lane closest to him making a right turn is completely open. And then I saw that it was because he was trying to make a left turn. But people have done that sometimes, where like they'll come out in front of you because they want to. If they're perpendicular to you, they will make a right turn, cross 2 lanes of traffic so they can get to the left turn lane. And it's like, you fucking idiot. I hate when people make me put on my brakes when there is no cars behind me. Especially
the U.S. Department,
or when people come down to a near stop to make a right or left turn into a driveway or intersection. It's like, what are you doing? Why you are literally look like you're stopped for about half a second before making this turn? It's okay to take this turn at 10 miles an hour. You're not going to die. Everything's going to be okay.
The U.S. Department of Transportation came out with a study a couple of years ago that stated that people who were super defensive in their driving were, I think, 3 times more likely to cause an accident.
Because you fuck up the flow.
Because, and so when, like, on the freeway, for example, you have those cars that are going the speed limit, and you have everyone sort of speeding around them, doing all that stuff like that, and they're like, well, I'm following the law, I'm not going to go faster than the speed limit. As a result, if you're not aware of your surroundings and being able to move with the flow and adjust to the driving climate, you are going to be the cause of the accident. As much as you think that you're being safe, it's counterintuitive because you're not moving with the flow, and as a result, you're disrupting other people's flows, which increase the likelihood for catastrophe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it was one of those things. I was thinking to myself, like, it just irritates the hell out of me. I was going at a pace where it would have just not been an issue at all.
You should
just
carry
to keep
a
effing driving.
carry like a half-size crowbar with you. That way, if it ever happens again, you just smash their mirror, give them a warning, send them.
Yeah, I like that.
Send a message.
Yep. Send a message. I like that.
Hey, asshole, get out the car. See what they do.
Dude, I have been so close, especially heading to Neil's house, driving up to Neil's house through Glendale Heights. There's a mosque on the way that always is either taking in traffic or letting out traffic. And let me fucking tell you, the number of times, over 50% of the times, I have issues with assholes being so close to the fucking curb and blocking it so that I can't do anything. And there's no like, as I'm heading northbound to Neil's house, through this parking lot, there is no driveway that I can, like, curve onto the street and then go back on for another 2 blocks.
Okay.
And so it's one of those things where I may have used a car as leverage to, like, make sure I don't fall off my bike before.
Yeah.
But I have no sympathy for those type of people at all. Like, if there's damage to their car, so be it. Like, pedestrians and bicyclists have the right of way. That is just the reality. And if you don't know how
cyclists do not, if they need to be in the street though, if you're on a sidewalk, I think you waive your right. I don't think, by law, dude, I don't think cyclists are supposed to be on the sidewalk. It's only for pedestrians. So if you get yourself into a sticky situation...
I think Illinois is different, though.
The
law... I think Illinois might be a little different when it comes to that. But I have no sympathy. Like, I look at it as what is the least inconvenient for the people around me.
Yes.
If I ride on the sidewalk because there's nobody on the sidewalk, then I take that as
for sure.
the justification for social norms that allow traffic to flow as freely as it can. Because if I'm on what is it, Bloomingdale Road, in the street on my bicycle, there's going to be cars going in and out, and I'm disrupting the flow of traffic.
Let me tell you something.
I need to be aware of that.
I do the same thing when I would ride my bicycle, even in the suburbs here in Glen Ellen. I would ride it in the street, but like most of the time, I'm not riding it in the street on Bryant when school lets out because there's a bunch of fucking cars all over the place.
Yeah,
you know? But let me tell you this. Let me tell you something that really grinds my gears. It really makes me want to get out of my car and just backhand somebody.
Take a crowbar to their front tire.
When you're driving and motherfuckers are jogging in the street when there's a sidewalk 5 feet next to them.
Yeah. Yes.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yes.
I want to hit them with my car. Like,
dude,
you're so fucking stupid. Get out of my way. Get out of my fucking way.
I don't understand. Especially, I feel like that's an issue in Glen Ellen.
It's such a fucking Glen Ellen thing, or suburb thing, maybe.
I think it's a suburb thing. Yeah, but I mean, dude, I cannot empathize more with that because
you know their reason is probably just like they're power walking, and they're just like, I've seen the power walking in the street too, not just the jogging, but the power walking. She's like, oh, I love all the space that it makes me feel like I have. Get out of the fucking street, lady.
Yeah,
get out of the street.
There is a sidewalk 5 feet to your right for a reason. Right.
I want to like ride on a motorcycle and like get real close to them and then like go off to the side. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah,
if they're standing in the street
real
like,
fucking smart. Yeah,
give them a scare.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
This one time I was driving down my street and there was a cyclist in the street, which is fine, and I go past him and I park in front of my house in the street, right?
Yeah,
and when you are a cyclist and you see a car pull off to the side and you're driving and that they pass you and then they park up, you know, what's your first thought? What's your inclination? The car is now parked. What do you do?
What do you mean?
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, if I see a car parked, I'm not going to ride my bicycle right next to the car.
Oh,
because the chances are the person's going to open the door to get out of the car.
That's what you're talking. Yeah, okay.
Right?
Then yeah, obviously.
And this guy, and I'm usually pretty good at being aware of things like that, especially like in the city. I don't just open up my fucking car on North Avenue when there's cars driving by. You know, I wait until the stoplight so that I can get out.
Exactly.
And I opened my car door, but I looked to see where the cyclist was, and he he rode by, and he looked back, and he gave me this dirty look. And my buddy Zilly was with me, and I think before I looked at him, he was like, "Fuck you too." Like, he didn't say it, he didn't yell it to him, but he just said it aloud for him and I to hear, because he saw the cyclist like give me a dirty look for opening my car door, because this guy, he wasn't directly next to my car, but he was probably like a foot or two away from the door when it was open. Which is like, dude, this is you see me parking my car.
Yeah.
Like, why are you riding close to the vehicle?
And again, like, that goes back to my attitude of like, no harm, no foul. Don't interrupt my flow, and I won't respond. And that's one of those things is, you know what? I've had people open car doors next to my bike, but I make sure that I'm responsibly far enough away that I'm not going to get whacked by it. That's my responsibility, and it's the responsibility of the driver not to swing their door all the way open.
Yeah.
Like, I expect them not to swing their door all the way open, and I expect my responsibility is to be far enough away that they can get out of their car without me interrupting their flow, right? It's all about the flow. It's all about the flow.
I wish there was. Do you remember that How I Met Your Mother episode where Marshall gets like 5 slaps against Barney? I wish there was some type of law that empowered citizens to utilize slaps against other citizens who are complete idiots.
Dude, we have enough vigilantism. And the problem is the people doling out the slaps would be the ones who deserve the slaps themselves. You know that. You know that's true.
Probably.
Motherfuckers. Self-righteous motherfuckers. Everyone else is wrong, but I'm perfect.
But if someone tries to slap me, I would stop them, and then I would give them a double slap.
You'd be crying like a little baby bitch afterwards.
I give back the slap they would try to give me, and then I'd give them another one with the backhand.
Oh my god.
And what I do, actually, maybe what I do is they try and slap me, right, with their hand, and I would grab their hand, and then I would pull them forward, smack them in the face, and then I have their hand, and then I'd like push them away, but still hold on to their hand, and then bring them back for a second one.
I'm glad that you have this all planned out in your head. You know that it will never
Push
turn out like
pull
that.
Back,
yeah, you know what?
Hit them again.
The great possibilities that are life.
But yeah, be aware of your surroundings and stop being an idiot.